What's going on here? Why is this? Let me flip that around. There we go. Just gonna wait a few minutes here to get the room populated, and I gotta hop over this couch because there's really not any room to do anything here. So, we got coffee. Let's get this camera a little bit better set up here. It's about as good as it's gonna get. I'm going to put this here to keep it from sliding. Maybe. Sorry, everybody. Just trying to get this situated. This is kind of last minute stuff that I thought of, and it's a cold, blustery, very crappy Saturday night, and it's a night that I would normally be working on my Pathfinder pickup project, but due to the fact that it is so terrible out there, that I decided to stay home and stay in my pajamas. So I'm just going to wait for the room to populate, I guess. See if anybody's actually out there paying attention to the Pounding Rocks channel here. I'm just going to mess around here with the setting just to get some ambiance. Blue light. Secret is this is a Subaru light over here. This blue lighting up my face. And we have a nice cup of coffee. All right, well, if nobody shows up in here, I'm not gonna carry on. I'm just gonna let it go. Or I'll yap for a minute or two and then see if the dogs want to say anything. Got a new dog, by the way. I don't know if I've showed this on the channel, but let's see if I can get him to... He's going to lay down. He's an old man like me. I started this channel back in 2013, so this channel is almost 10 years old. I would say it's had very little success in terms of getting traction, but whatever. It's not a drift truck channel. It's not something that has a lot of high production anymore. I actually don't do edits. Everything is like right off the camera and raw. That's why there's a lot of me like stumbling around to figure out what I'm trying to say and whatnot, but what are you gonna do? So welcome to the Pounding Rocks Live Saturday night, March 12th, 2022, on a cold, blustery night here in central New York. A night that I normally would be over at my buddy Justin's house, turning wrenches on the Pathfinder pickup project truck. I have lots to do, but it's like 20 degrees outside, and we're supposed to have like 50-mile-an-hour gusts. And that's just not, I'm just not feeling it. And even though he has barrel heat that can get it up to a good temperature in there, I just don't feel like being outside. I really don't. The dogs have been wanting to go outside, and I feel so bad because I'm like, we go outside and immediately just turn right around and go back in. So I gotta apologize about my state. This was kind of like random. I didn't know if I was going to do a live thing or whatever. I was working on decals probably about 20 minutes ago, whatnot, trying to come up with some cool new ideas to sell on the Facebook marketplace and everything, which it's okay, I guess. It's not really like when I first started it back in November, stuff was flying off the shelf. I literally could not believe how much stuff I was selling like right off the get-go. And I got a lot of good feedback on the stuff that I had made, and I took a lot of time to be meticulous about it. And I shipped all over the world. I actually had customers in the Philippines that I sent stuff to. I've sent stuff to Canada. I've sent stuff all over the United States. But then I got the vid in December, and that really floored me. And I haven't really recovered since. It's like people are liking what I'm putting up, but I'm not getting any comments going, I want to buy it. And I've had customers tell me, swear up and down, I'm going to buy tire kickers. It's part of the game, I guess. So I'll yap for a few minutes and see if anybody else joins in. But as I said, tonight would normally be a night that I'd be turning wrenches on the Pathfinder pickup. I really got to run the battery cable. That's like my main thing. I was kind of reluctant to do it last time just because I didn't get loom. I don't have loom for it yet. I bought 5/8 loom, and it's not, the diameter's not big enough. It won't wrap around the battery cable. So I'm going to go with like 3/4 loom, probably like 10 feet of it. I can get it from the shop around the corner from my house. So I'll just get it by length and cut and tape and make it look all pretty. And then just, nail it to the bottom of the cab. Run it around the headers so it doesn't melt, so we don't have any arcage. So that's something I should be doing tonight. Other stuff that I should be doing tonight would be finishing the fuel lines, which really is not going to take much. I just got to put the unions in, and that's done. So then the fuel is plumbed. I'm going to pull the sending unit out and replace the fuel pump. I'm also going to pump out all the old crappy gas that's been in that tank. Since I bought the truck in 2017, so I bet you that fuel's pretty bad at this point. So I'm just going to pump it all out, and if I got to clean the tank, so be it, whatever. No big deal. Put it all back together with the new high volume pump, and then the fuel system should be plumbed. I can run the wiring from the cab back. That's all I gotta do is just punch a hole in the floor, run the wiring through the floor, put a grommet there, tape it all up, and then the fuel's all plumbed. I started working on the cooling. For some reason the hoses aren't, well, I can tell you exactly why. The 3-inch body lift has made the hoses a little bit off in length, and I knew that was going to happen. But in order to find out exactly what I needed, I had to at least start somewhere. So I bought the stock hoses, and I'm just going to have to get couplers and a length of straight hose to make the connections from the engine block to the radiator. That takes care of that. And then I still got to get the mass airflow sensor. No, not the mass airflow sensor. I still got to get the throttle position sensor wired in. That's been just sitting there on my mind for a while, and I'm not going to dick around with the 3.0 throttle position sensor. I'm going to rock with a 3.3 sensor and cross my fingers. That finishes the engine harness, and then it cranks. You guys have seen 2 videos of it cranking now. The first one was triggering it with the starter wire using a power probe. The second one was using the actual key, and figured out where I had to jumper the wire harness to get it to actually crank on its own. Cooling and fuel and a little bit of electrical left. That's so close. It's so close. I brought home the Y pipe, the pace setter Y pipe, because for some reason, and I really can't figure this one out, because mathematically the frames between the Pathfinder and the 4-wheel drive pickup truck and the Xterra, from the B-pillar forward, everything is exactly the same. They may have updated a couple little things here and there, but all the measurements are exactly the same. So the engine sits between the frame rails in the same spot on all 3 of those trucks. And when I'm using the pace setter headers, I got them all mounted up, but the Y pipe that they sent doesn't slide on. I mean, you can slide it on one header and it won't line up on the other header. It just, the headers are like spaced out too far, and there's no way you can stretch the pipe. So I brought the pipe home, the Y pipe. I'm just going to cut it right in the middle, and then I'm going to slide it on to the headers, and then I'm going to do a coupler. And then once I get the coupler and everything where I want it to, I'm going to weld it in place and repaint it. And it'll look like somebody cut it and welded it, but it'll fit. And then I've got a flange for the original pipe and everything. And it's gonna get noisy here for a minute because Jet wants his toy, and here he goes. There he goes. And there may be some barking. I apologize. These guys, see, these guys wubbing now. He's a happy dog. Yeah. So, yeah, we got 3 dogs now. We got Jet, got Benny. Those 2 have been around. And now we got an old man, Blue, who I rescued through the Pound Hound Rescue. He's a last minute youth. They were going to euthanize him in the shelter in New York City. And I reached out to the rescue, not knowing about Blue at all. I'd actually seen another dog that I was interested in rescuing, but he came with a bonded pair, and I can't do a bonded pair. It's too many. So the lady suggested Blue. I just told her, I said, you got a friend out here in central New York. If you need transport, if you need, anything that I can do physically, you've got a friend in central New York. And she goes, well, how about rescuing Blue? And I said, well, let me see his profile. I did his profile. And he turned out to be like, he's a really good boy. 8-year-old dog, had been with the family for about 8 years, and then they decided to just dump him because they didn't want to take care of him anymore. So they dumped him at a high kill shelter, and he was fostered out, and the foster that they had was not qualified, didn't know what she was doing, I guess, and it's nothing against, her or anything like that. I mean, some people just, he's a big dog. And looking at the pictures of her and him, he's like almost as tall as she is. So she was having trouble with him, and so he ended up back at the shelter, and he was on, got back on the youth list. And last minute, we pulled him out of the shelter, and they did a caravan and took him across the state from New York City to Syracuse, where I met him there and took possession of him. And this was back in December. And he's not mine. He still belongs to the foster, or to the rescue, but he's with me for as long as he needs to be. So I told him, I said, if he never gets adopted by anybody, that's perfectly fine. He can spend the rest of his life here in my house. He's totally welcome. He gets along with the other 2 boys just fine. So there's no issues there. So we have another shop dog here. And I'd show him to you, but he's a little short here. He's right behind me here. Anyways, so I'm a dog rescuer. Officially, I'm a foster. So that's what I've been doing. Just doing things with my life. Started the business for decals, dog rescuing. Still working for the John Deere tractor dealer as an outside rep. That's going pretty well. And just continuing to work on the projects. I just added a 9,000 watt generator to the barn. I have a kerosene heater now in the barn, so I can kind of do projects throughout the winter, which is going to be nice because I start crawling the walls like mid-December, and it was even worse because I got the vid at the end of December, and it knocked me right on my butt. And yeah, so it was 10 times worse after that. I felt like I had so much time that I had to make up because I'm not a young pup anymore. I'm 46, and I give my body about 20 more years before it totally gives out, and I'm sitting in a chair instructing the young pups, turn that boat, because I won't be able to do it myself. My back will be crushed. I'll be pooping my pants, and that'll be the end of it. So yeah, I'm giving myself about 20 years before that becomes a real problem, if I'm lucky. Let's hope I'm lucky on that one. I haven't done anything else with any of the other projects. I've been driving the Xterra, and I love that truck. I'll tell you, if you guys get a chance to get a first or a 1.5 gen Xterra, get one. Even though gas prices are absolutely through the roof, they make a great second vehicle for like weekend work. I mean, here in the middle of winter here with this blustery blowing snow, what's nice is that I can load up all the parts and tools that I need to bring over to Justin's house, or if I got to take something to another shop to work on, or if I got to pick something up at the junkyard. that's great because I don't have to drive around with, you know, a bed full of snow blowing all over the place and, you know, being crowded in the small little cab. I folded the seats down. I took the rear seats like completely out, folded those down, and it's like driving around like almost like driving around a van, I guess, because you know it's not like a pickup truck. There's no back glass right behind you. There's, you know, you look behind you and it's just an open space. And I fit toolboxes back there, fenders, hoods, you know, all kinds of stuff. So if you get a chance to get a first gen Xterra, I would take one as a second. What's up, Dylan? Um, I'd get one as a second vehicle to actually, you know, be handy around the shop. It's great. Mine's 4-wheel drive. It's just an automatic. It's nothing terribly fancy or whatever. But it does have a check engine light, and it's quite funny why. The air intake sensor that's on the snorkel tube has malfunctioned, and I've scanned it, and the ECM is being told that the outside air temperature is 210 degrees. So it like dead cold, like, you know, teens or whatever for, you know, temperature. Yeah, it's got a little bit of an extended crank because it doesn't know what the hell to do. It's leaning it out because it's thinking that it's hot outside, but it's not. It's like, you know, 12 degrees out, but the computer's being told, oh, it's 200 degrees. It's almost as hot as being on the sun, I guess, you know. But I'll just change that sensor out later. It's not really a big deal to me. The truck runs fine. It gets crappy mileage. It needs brakes. There's something wrong with this, with the front steering. It sways a little bit, and I think that the compression rod bushings are rotted out of it. So I'm going to do those in the spring, or at least make sure that that isn't the problem. And I'll do the rear brakes, get those cleaned up and adjusted, and I got to free up the front calipers a little bit more. They're a little sticky. So other than that, that truck has been just awesome. It was a good buy. Even with the work that it needed brake lines, it needed shocks, it needed sway bar links in the rear, a whole bunch of other little, you know, tidbits that were just kind of annoyances. You know, it still needs the muffler put on. I have a muffler sitting in the barn waiting for it. But, you know, I bought the truck so late in the season that I didn't bother. It's got flex pipe on it. Flex pipe going into a generic muffler, and they hacked off the rear tailpipe and put flex pipe onto that. So that's kind of like, it's all held together by, you know, these U-bolt clamps, but it is working just fine, so no complaints. Yeah. Tell you. So I bought this from Harbor Freight, and I love this thing. You guys probably seen these things. They're like, if you go to Harbor Freight between now and I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight, so I'm not really selling Harbor Freight parts or tools or anything like that, but I'm just saying that this was badass. They have a special coupon right now, $20, and it is totally just the bomb. It's like, you know, just awesome. So it's got a bright mode, it's got a not bright mode, and then the end of it actually lights up as a flashlight as well. I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but yeah, you can see that. So, and it's rechargeable, and all that stuff. Here's Benny. What are you doing, you silly dog? What are you doing? You're a goofball. What are you doing? So Benny wants to be on camera, apparently. He wants to hang out with us. So that's about it. It's just been buying tools and getting ready for the end of the world, I guess. I know that I have to get this truck done. Trust me, I've got so many comments on everybody saying, you gotta get that truck done. I can't wait to see it climbing hills and stuff. Believe me, I'm with you. I believe that finishing that truck is the next stage of my life. Because right now, I'm in the building phase. I'm still procuring stuff, putting things together, studying stuff. I mean, I just went through some of the paperwork that I've accumulated over the years on studying what I needed to do to get all the wiring to work, everything that I've, like, because I've drawn this truck out on paper. before I even turned the bolt. And I went through it today, and there's a whole briefcase full of paperwork. So, like, if I ever sold this truck, I'd have to sell it with the Bible that I wrote on it, because no one's going to know what's going on in there. They're going to, if you pulled into AutoZone with this thing, they would just like totally have a heart attack. They'd flip out and just probably hit the floor, because I'd be like, yeah, it's a 1992 Pathfinder with a 2003 Xterra engine and a 1990, 5-speed transmission, even though it was originally an automatic. And it's not a Pathfinder anymore. It's a pickup truck. It's got a hard body cab on it. So they would just not know what to do. They would probably try and sell me an air freshener. That's probably all they could probably look up in the computer and be like, yeah, well, we got an air freshener that'll fit it. So I'm actually going out to the junkyard on Monday, using a little bit of paid time off that I got through work to go with Justin. He's got parts that he's picking up. He bought a Mercedes. I don't know what model. I think it's like a 420. I don't know. It's a 2-door coupe. It's a 79. It was in a house fire. It's funny as hell, though, because the majority of this car, it looks like it was just on fire on the surface. Some of the stuff melted, like the taillights are a little bit melted, the turn signals are melted, the windows got smashed out because of the fire and everything like that. And it's got a removable hard top. It's a 2-door. It's a 5-speed. It's a 6-cylinder, straight 6. Thing runs and drives. I mean, if you look underneath it, the car had been restored prior to the fire. So if you go underneath it, everything is like pristine. Even the bodywork is still pristine. It's just charred. I mean, all the paint got burned off of it. You can see where a little bit of Bondo work was done on it and everything. The car was originally silver, but now it's a combination of char marks and rust. And he bought this car, and he's gonna try and make a barbecuda, like Dulcich, Steve Dulcich's barbecuda that he bought, or that he had, that was in the California fires, and it got gutted, and he ended up fixing that up, and he's actually running and driving it, and the body's all burned up and everything. So Justin's actually fixing this car up, and he's going to drive it around. The goal is to take it as far as he can to see how road legal he can get it. Obviously it's going to be safe. It's going to have all the lights. It's got to do all that, but he's not going to fix any of the body work, because it's actually kind of neat. It's like, I suggested he name it Darnell after the character in the movie Christine, who gets killed in Christine after she was out on fire, and then pulls into Darnell's shop, and it's just smoking and black and covered, in char, because it had been on fire the whole time. So Darnell comes across the car, nobody's in it. He gets in it to just get comfortable and see, and then the car kills him right there. So the fact that this Mercedes is just as burned as Christine is, it's kind of cool. So I said, you should name it Darnell, after Darnell from Darnell's Auto Shop, or the auto parts, because he had a junkyard. So I thought it was fitting. We'll see what he does. But we're going out to past Syracuse on Monday, and there's 2 yards that we're going to be at. I know one of them is called Vince's You Pull It, so we'll be there at some point. I don't know what the name of the other yard is. I've never been there. It's like Rupert's or Rogers, or who the hell knows. But either which way, that I'm going to be seeking out Nissan parts for Nissan hardbody trucks, and then 720s as well. I recently scored a steering wheel out of a 720 ST. Funny thing is that I took the horn button and kept that for like 4 months, thinking that the truck was going to get crushed, and before I ever got back to get the steering wheel. But I went out 2 weeks ago back to that yard, and the truck was still there. And I can't believe it. There's they had chopped the roof off. There's really not a whole lot left of it. But I took the steering wheel, and so I was able to put the horn button and the steering wheel together, posted it on Facebook, and it sold within like 20 minutes. I had a guy PayPal me, and it's on its way to California to get rewrapped. The leather's going to be rewrapped. The aluminum is going to be polished. Everything's going to be cleaned up, and those wheels are extremely valuable, especially redone. I mean, the prices that this guy was showing me is what he sold them for boggled my mind for a Nissan steering wheel. I mean, it's so specific. I was going to save it and rewrap it myself and try and put it on one of my project trucks, but looking at the way the hub is, it's not going to work on a hard body. There's no way I could get it to work on a hard body just because the pins, excuse me, the pins are in the wrong spot. So I decided to move it along and help another 720. Oh, God, this coffee coming right back up. Help another 720 owner fix his project and get another 720 on the road, and hopefully that steering wheel was everything they hoped it would be. I sold some hood vents for that same truck. I had hood vents for one. I used to own a 720. I actually had two 720s. I had an 81 720 and I had an 84 720 dually. The only thing that I saved from either of those trucks was I have the grill from the 84, which is a funny story. I had the 84 dually. I sold it to a guy. He always wanted a dually Toyota, but he settled for a dually Nissan. He bought it from me. He let it sit for years, like set for like 25 years. It melted into the ground. It was done. I was driving by his shop 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe a year ago. I drove by his shop, and this is where I bought my green truck from 14 years ago. So I drove by his shop, and I saw all the doors open and everything pulled out. So I pulled in, and he had passed away, unfortunately. He was a great guy, big Harley guy. He passed away, and the family was going through, and they were going to scrap a whole bunch of stuff, and they were going to sell a bunch of stuff at some of these, whatever, these sales or whatever. And so I was walking around looking at all the stuff. I said, "Do you mind if I pick through some of this stuff and see if there's anything that I'd be interested in?" And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." So I walked around and I looked and I spotted a 720 grill, like a late 720s grill. And I was like, "Whoa, that's cool." And so I offered them some money for it, and they took it. And then it dawned on me. The guy saved the grill off of the old dually. That's what he did. Before the truck disappeared and melted into the ground, he saved the grill off of it. So what goes around comes around. So I have the grill for my old 720 in the barn as a decoration. So that's kind of cool. I thought that was nice that it came back to me. So because I did like that truck. That truck was awesome. But this was we're talking 1997 here. 1997, 1998 is when I owned that truck. And I also had my 81 720 at the same time, and I was taking the 81 off the road during the winter and driving the 84. But that winter, I think it had to be 97. That winter, it was like 70 degrees in February. It never snowed. I just ended up putting the Datsun back on the road, and I sold the 84 Nissan because I was living at my parents' house at the time, and they didn't want me to have too many vehicles there. They were, they had forced me to sell a lot of things that they didn't want in their yard, and I regret it now. So there's that. And from my Datsun 720, I have the grill label, the grill badge. I have that still. And I cut the Datsun out of the tailgate, and I have that. It's raw cut. I got to take it over to a place that's got a nice shear and cut it so it's nice and squared. And then I'm going to probably frame it because I have a bunch of these tailgate panels. If you look over here, that's the one I saved off of the ST that I got the steering wheel off of. And then I got a bunch of the Pathfinder ones as well that, that goes across the tailgate and everything. Those are nice decorations. But I did save the one off the back of my Datsun, and that is going to go up in the shop as a wall of fame. We have walls of shame and walls of fame here. The walls of shame is stuff that I've broken and destroyed. Obviously, parts of my Sonata are on the wall of shame because I did wreck that pretty bad. And amongst other vehicles, that I've purposely destroyed. That the Sonata was not purposely destroyed. The Sonata was a victim of circumstance. And so, yeah, that was a unexpected loss, and it was bad. So I still have pieces of that. But the Wall of Fame is going to be all the parts of vehicles that I've saved. I do have, right behind me here, this is the hubcap from my very first car. This is off of my '84 Nissan Sentra station wagon, which was affectionately known as Red Car, because we all know how creative I am with names. This is off of the Red Car, and that was an awesome car. It was a 5-speed, 1.6 liter E16 carbureted, and I still have the license plates off of it. Well, I have one of the license plates off that car. Oops, we'll get that later. Oh, speaking of, so Hagerty changed its rules. The Hagerty Classic Car Insurance changed its rules within the last couple of years or whatnot to allow vehicles that are not just classics, like in the classic sense, to be insured by them. So they changed the rules, so now I was able to actually have the green truck put on Hagerty's Classic Car Insurance, because green truck is 27 years old as of this year. As of this February, it turned 27 years old. So I contacted Hagerty, and they gave me insurance for vintage car or antique car insurance, which is cheaper than Geico. And hang on, Jet wants his toy again. Which is cheaper than Geico, and it is comp, collision, and glass. So I did that, and even though as an antique in New York State, sorry, Jet. Even though it's an antique car in New York State, I'm limited to 2,500 miles a year. All right, but I'm doing a live video, so you're going to have to go and do that in another room. Is that possible that we can get you to do this in another room? He does not want to give this up. There you go. Go get that. All right. So I'm limited to 2,500 miles a year as an antique. Now that I've done that, I was able to go through New York State and re-register the truck as an antique as well. And I had the license plates off of my second car, my Nissan Altima. I had a 97 Nissan Altima that I bought in 1999. This was the transition period when they went from the Lady Liberty plates to those ugly plates that had the waterfall and all that stuff on it. And you got your new plates in the mail. You had the option, I guess, maybe, I don't remember, this was 20 years ago. I never turned in my original plates because New York State probably didn't want them or didn't care. So I saved them, and because I was so anal retentive back then about having the car like clean, pristine clean, that I washed the license plates and just kept them so nice. Dude, you gotta stop. I'm doing a live video. Yes, I understand. So I saved them. They're in pristine condition, and those are the plates off my second car. Those are the plates that I registered with New York State. Those are the plates that are now on the green truck. So once again, what goes around comes around. It's awesome that I'm driving around with Lady Liberty plates on now. It's going to be unique. It's going to be different. And Justin has a couple vehicles that are registered as antiques as well. And so we're kind of like, when we get the two, he's got an S10 that's registered as an antique. His is an 83 or 84, I think. We get the two trucks together, we're going to have antique plates. So you'll start seeing a lot of Lady Liberty plates around here. But I thought that was a pretty neat thing. So that's awesome. But I'm limited to 2,500 miles a year, but that's not going to be a problem because basically I don't even think I drove the truck. I think I only drove the truck like 800 miles last year. I mean, if you think about it, I got the truck back from the body shop from my accident back in 2012. And I have not, when I got it back, it had like 130,000 miles on it. And now it's 2020, so it's been 10 years since the truck was in the body shop and got painted. The truck has about 140,000 miles on it. So I've put 10,000 miles on it in 10 years. So that should tell you that I'm not really going to run into the 2,500 mile problem. And even if I did, they're not going to care. Go lay down. Dude, go lay down. Where's your bone? Go get your bone. No. Where's your bone? Go get your bone. I'm not giving you the wubba. You're going to have to wait. I'm on a live video here. And I don't want to listen to you squeaking the wubba like crazy, okay? I understand. Alright? You're a good dog. So, that's what I've got. That is where we are at right now. And I'm pretty excited about the things that are coming up. There's a lot of things that I will do this year. Nice, thank you. Go lay down, dude. Come here. Down. Lay down. Down. Thank you. Sorry about that. So Justin has started a new company last year, and it's basically specializes in just selling vintage car parts for anything that's like 1970s and older. He's a master picker, so American Picker is like his second nature. And him and I had been going to junkyards for years as friends, just building our projects. But we found a couple yards that weren't really open to the general public. I'm not going to name them, but they weren't open to the general public, and they went back, way back, like 1950s back. Like some of the cars that they scrapped in the 60s, not much left of them, but they're in there. So he started buying a lot of these parts, and it's escalated to him buying a lot of the cars that are in the yards complete and just parting them out and selling parts. The name of the company is Finger Lakes Vintage Auto Parts. They're outside of Canandaigua, and he's doing good enough doing that business, all online sales, in-person sales. He's been going to car shows and doing vendor spots, that he was able to quit his day job and does this full time. He's amazing at it. I mean, he can sit there and make more money in one day than I do in a week. So this guy he's sharp. So that's what we're doing on Monday. Is he's going to get that hardtop for that Mercedes for his own project, but we're going to stop off at 2 yards, and who knows what he's going to find. He just walks around and he'll see something, and he'll just know that it's worth more than what he's going to pay for it, and you don't know what it's going to be. It could be some really strange piece of trim that you're like, dude, I wouldn't waste my money on that. That's nothing, I don't want to, I personally don't want to tie up my finances on stuff that I can't guarantee that I would sell for profit. So I don't want to do that. But he will, and he's got probably, I know last year that he did a lot of business. He did a lot of business online. So now he bought a trailer, and he's going to be going to various car shows in the Northeast and setting up vendor spots to sit down and people just see what he's got and pay for it. So what he was suggesting, and I really need to get my butt in gear here, is that I'm going to start printing some decals that he can sell, like just make $1 or $2 decals, buy a bin, and just throw the bin out there, and not really worry if someone's going to, it'll be like an on your honor system. I mean, obviously he's going to watch it as best he can, but, if I make a whole bunch of just BS decals and throw them in a bin, and I make a couple $100 or, whatever, if people are buying them like crazy, even if I make like $50, it still pays for whatever the vinyl I use to do with it, to make the stuff. Benny, hey, go lay down. Hey! Leave him alone, Benny. Leave him alone. The puppy has to irritate the old man. So the old man will play with him, and they do play very rough. Go lay down. They play very rough. They're friendly. They're not chomping each other or whatever. The old man has had trouble with other dogs in the past. So I limit his exposure to other dogs. He seems to be fine with these two. So we got Benny right here and Jet's over on the side right here. And Jet's mad because I took his toy away from him because he was squeaking it in the video. And he's looking at me like really mad right now. but you're just gonna have to deal. Nah, just go lay down. Anyway, so Benny will come over and start harassing the old man, even though it's 11 o'clock at night, and the old man will play, but sometimes the old man will just get flustered and walk off, and then Benny will follow him around and just be annoying the whole time. So that's that. But back on topic, I'm gonna cut a bunch of decals. Obviously, since he's going to like Dodge, Mopar shows and Chevy and Ford and stuff like that, most of my decals are just going to be geared towards that and hot rod themed stuff and whatnot. So I'm just going to start cutting, and I think eventually what I'm going to do is try and make my setup more mobile. So when the time comes, if there's something local that I want to try out, like say there's a car show up here in Canandaigua, I know that there's a motorcycle vendor swap meet that happens in the city of Rochester that a buddy of mine throws a couple times a year. I thought that if I throw the printer or the cutter in the truck, the laptop in the truck, and just bring a whole box of vinyl, I can just cut stuff right on the spot. If a customer sees something, like I'm going to get like poster board and make a whole bunch of examples of what I can do with pricing, and then be like, the bigger it is, the more expensive it is. And then if you do, if you just pick what's on the board, I can cut it right down on the spot, or have a box full of pre-cut stuff. And if somebody says like, I want you to cut me the following things, I can be like, yeah, come back in like, half an hour or whatever, and I'll cut them, but you got to pay for them. Obviously I'm not going to cut anything that isn't paid for. Did that early on and had customers come and say, hey man, can you make me this decal? I'll be like, yeah, sure, no, and I'd make it, and then I'd post it. They'd be like, cool, and I'll be like, what, here's my PayPal. They'd be like, I don't know if that's going to look good on my car though. I'm like, dude, why'd you ask me to cut this? So now I've learned. I don't cut anything until somebody actually puts the money in the PayPal account, because I'll show it to you on the screen, and and then once I hear the cha-ching from PayPal, obviously then the vinyl goes in the cutter, and I cut it and I mail it off. So it'll be cool to do it on site, because then I can just be like, well, this is what I'll cut on the board, because these are the designs I got. I'll bring business cards if somebody wants to work with me to do something more custom. I could, that'd be great, because that'll just increase business. One of the things that I started doing, and I had a repeat customer, which was awesome, is that some of the farms out there over the winter like to restore their equipment that's been out in the sun, got beat up all for, however many years or whatnot. So I had a couple farms that asked me to do repop decals for some of their planters and tillage equipment. And I cut that, and I actually did really good with that. And I have this customer is going to be contacting me again, because I know he's got another piece of equipment that he's restoring that he wants to get the decals for, and he knows that I did a good job the last time. So I think that's a cool opportunity. As I said, anybody who's interested, the Nissan tailgate decals that I make are measured and they're spec'd out exactly like the OEM ones. So you don't have to worry about cutting and spacing any of the stuff out. I actually drag the tailgate into the house. It's one of the nice things about being a single bachelor, is that I can bring car parts in the house, and the wife's not going to freak out because, hey, it's my place. So the tailgate was in the kitchen, and I had the micrometer out and the measuring tape out, and I was doing test cuts and everything, and I got all the letters exactly spaced properly with the right thicknesses, the right height, the right width. So all you gotta do is just peel it off and put it on the tailgate. And if there's a color that Oracle has in their catalog, and I recommend the outdoor decal, I don't recommend the indoor, even though some of the colors for the indoor stuff are pretty cool. The indoor stuff's only gonna last like a year and a half, maybe 2 years tops. The outdoor stuff will last 7 to 8 years if it's been sitting in direct sunlight. So if it's like in the Sahara Desert, it'll last 8 years and then it'll just burn off. Which is funny, because anytime you go and you see a vehicle driving around and the decal's like totally burned off, like it's just melted off the window or whatnot, and it's not an old car, it's not like a 30-year-old car, you know that somebody was using the indoor decal stuff and selling them to the guy, and most people aren't going to know that they're buying indoor decal stuff because it looks almost identical. So they bought a decal that says, in honor of, and it'll have a person's name, the years, and all that stuff or whatnot. They'll buy that, but it'll be smoked because it'd be out in the sun all day long. And that the decal says, from 1967 to 2021 was like the date that the person, that the in your honor of lived. And you're like, dude, that decal's only been out on that car from 2021 till now, and it's burned up like that. Indoor decals, that's what they're doing. I mean, the price is the same. So if you buy a tube of indoor and a tube of outdoor, they're priced the same. So I don't know why you wouldn't just use the right stuff in the first place. So the stuff that I'm making for the decal for the tailgates is all outdoor stuff, and it actually turns out really, really nice. And since Nissan only offered charcoal and silver, you can have a totally unique setup by having red, pink, blue. So last year I replaced Green's tailgate logo with black, so it's black on black, and I like that. But since I'm running a business now, all these vehicles now can be rolling billboards for what I'm capable of. So I think that, and since it's all removable anyways, so if I put it on Green Truck and I don't like it, I just take the heat gun and I can just peel it off and put something else on it because I can just cut it right then and there. I'm going to try some different colors on it to see which ones I like. So I might try red, gold. I'm actually kind of thinking like teal might look kind of cool on it too. So it'd be Green Truck, black, because I painted that strip on the back of the tailgate black. So it's going to highlight all the letters that are there. So I'll do teal and see how that looks and photograph it, and everybody can see what it looks like on the truck. And so if it's a color that's Oracle's got available to it, then it'll be I can cut it. So I've had one viewer, and I've had a lot of people pop in and out, but this one viewer, you're not Google, are you? Say hi. Just Google monitoring to make sure that I'm not talking about, or YouTube making sure I'm not talking about bad subjects. Just monitoring, checking me out, making sure that I'm in line. Probably, most likely. But viewers, say hi if you're actually a human being. Anyways, so I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. I think it'll be fun to do decals. I'd love to do it full time. I'd love to have the business take off enough that I'm doing it full time, all over the world, doing it for, the import scene, and doing it for farms and big trucks. Hey man, so it is you. All right, that's cool. You've been with me almost the entire time. That's cool. I like that. Hopefully I'm entertaining enough here. It's been I didn't expect a lot of people to be on this live feed because, one, I haven't done anything with this channel in at least a month now, and two, I just decided on a whim to just throw myself up here and just go, hell, Saturday night, I ain't doing anything. Let's go live. And so we'll see how many people actually tune in. And yeah. So that'd be awesome to do farms, trucks, and the import scene on the decal business. That'd be just totally awesome. I got a light board. It's like a big white sheet that sits on the desk. Awesome, man. Big white sheet that sits on my desk that when I press it, the whole thing lights up, and it allows me to see the decal from the bottom up. So when I'm peeling off all the scrap stuff that doesn't stay on, I can actually see where all the lines are a lot easier. It's been awesome, very helpful in getting my actual cleaning up talents up, because now I can see where all the lines are. But I still got to fine tune it a little bit because it doesn't want to do tiny decals. I've been hired by a race team to do their company name on their helmets. So it's going to be like 4-inch by not even a half an inch tall lettering. And because they're running Porsches, they wanted their company name in the Porsche font, or at least they thought that was a cool idea. And I think it looks awesome. in the Porsche font, but I've been having a lot of trouble with that size getting the blade to cut it, and I think that either A, it's just too small for the cutter, or B, it's the blade is smoked, and I think I'm going to try replacing the blade before I discount the cutter, because the cutter is amazing. I've done small stuff with it before, but for some reason it just won't do these cuts, and it's like the letter R, cutting out the little opening in the letter R at the top. It's just completely bungling that up, and the results have been just bad. And I don't want to go back to the team and be like, yeah, sorry, I can't do it because it's just too small. I'd love to have my logo on their car because I did work for them. I told them, I said, if I do this, I won't charge you for it, but you want to throw the Water Street Decals logo on your car. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, we'll throw it on the car. I'm like, that'd be awesome to see Water Street Decals going around Daytona because that's where the car is going to be racing. And I think that would be just totally awesome. Speaking of decals on cars, once again, my buddy Justin, Dylan, you know Justin, so you're good. But anybody else who's watching the channel doesn't know who Justin is. He bought me a trunk lid from the junkyard for Christmas, I think it was. Yeah, it was like Christmas, like over a year ago. And it was a Datsun 1200 trunk lid that he found over at the yard, and it had been sitting out there for years. This trunk had been out there for years. So it's sun faded, and it's rusty in spots, but it's a Datsun 1200 trunk, and Datsun 1200s used to run, and they still do in a lot of tracks, but they were mainly raced during the 70s. SCCA race cars, like B stock, A stock stuff, and so this trunk was pretty bare, and I'm going to use it as garage art. And so I was like, well, I started studying what some of these decals look like back then. And Benny, hey, that's enough. Leave him alone. Go lay down. It's enough. Thank you. Just leave him alone. Dude, stop. Benny, that's enough. Anyways, so studying the decals, I decided to try my hand at doing like a actual meatball with the white circle and then putting the numbers on the white meatball. And you can see it on the Instagram. If you go to Instagram and you do hashtag Water Street Decals, you can see all the stuff that I've done. And the trunk lid is on there, so I got the meatball with 76 on it. I've got the Datsun logo on it and a couple other things to try and make it look like it actually came off of an old race car. And I was going to make up like a fake driver's name. Like if somebody asked me where the trunk came from, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, it was Bob Boberson's car back in 1972. He wrecked at Watkins Glen, and there's this trunk. I just got to sun fade the decals a little bit to match the trunk, but it came out looking awesome. It was going to be a basic trunk. Hey, Jet, go lay down. Dude, go lay down. Thank you. Good boy. Go lay down. Thank you. Anyways, yeah, so that's going to be an awesome little thing. And now I've got that Infiniti G37. Oh, it's a G37X. I call it a crew cab 370Z. That's my autocross car. I introduced that last year, I think it was, like just before winter. I introduced that car to the fleet, and so I'm actually going to try and do some autocross stuff this year. I signed up for the SCCA again, so there was a lapse in my membership for a few years, but now I'm back in. And I'm actually going to prep this car a little bit to do some autocross stuff. And I think that will be fun to get it out there. And since I don't really care, I'm not registering the car, I'm not, anything. It's another rolling billboard for my company. So I was thinking about doing, obviously, some Nissan and Infiniti logos on it. That's kind of a no-brainer. But I could do the meatball on the side, and I can do the numbers on the side. So it looks more dedicated. And then I was also thinking about taking vinyl. I have a lot of vinyl scraps from all the stuff that I, screwed up or whatnot. And I was thinking about doing a vinyl wrap of camouflage. I also thought about doing that on the Xterra as well, because the Xterra is silver, and I was thinking about doing like white and red, and maybe blue, and just cutting up the pieces into random shapes and heating them up and putting them on the truck to give it that camouflage look like some of the Jeeps and stuff have. Um, just to learn. It's a learning experience for me. I've never done it before, and if I'm going to run a decal business, I might as well know how to do these things, right? So I figured I got nothing to lose, because if I don't like it, you just peel it back off and you're done. I can spend like $6,000 on a camouflage wrap and be out $6,000. Or I could take the box of scraps that I have sitting over here and just cut the scraps into different shapes and sizes and whatnot, and just lay them on the car and lay them on the truck and just do that. So it'll be very decorated, shall we say. The rest of the car, since I'm going to be running it in the D stock class, the rest of the car is going to be stock, except for whatever the rule book allows me to do. So if it allows me to pull the rear seats out and gut the interior or whatnot, I will do that. And then I can get some of my money back. It's not like I have a lot of money into this car anyway. So it's a 2010 G37X, and it's got a bad catalytic converter, and it's got an evap leak. And I believe the evap leak is actually just the gas cap. So both of these could be remedied, and the car could be put back on the road. Both of these could be remedied, and I could sell the car for money, and it would be a good profit, because I really don't have a lot into the car. But I'm looking at it as like, this car landed in my lap. Let's have some fun with it, Let's do something fun, because if I sell the car, what else am I going to buy? I've been looking at Marketplace, and everything is priced through the roof now. It's stupid. Like, I'm trying, even if I wanted to buy a parts truck, they're like, parts trucks, $1,500, $2,000 for parts trucks. I'm like, what are you, crazy? It's unreal. I paid $1,600 for patches of the hard body in running condition, running and driving in inspectable, registerable condition, and I still have it now. And that's actually one of the projects this year, is to weld up the exhaust, bleed the brakes, and that truck's done. That truck's back on the road. But I've been looking at 720s, because I'd love to have a 720 in the fleet. I'm not getting into a 720 for under like $4,000, and there's none around here. I'd have to ship them in, and so that's another, depending. Say I get one from California or from the Northwest, that's going to be like $900 to $1,000 transport fee. I'm not, I'm into the truck for like $4,000 or $5,000, and at that price, it's going to be a Princess, and I don't really need any more Princesses. The green truck's Princess enough. That truck owns me. It's been annoying in the fact that I can't really, I don't want to leave it outside. I don't want to take it to Wegmans. I don't want to take it to Walmart or any of that stuff. It's just I keep it in the garage. I keep a cover on it, and I take it out on nice days. And maybe I'm silly because I do this, because I treat it like it's a Corvette, I guess. Like Corvette owners only take their cars out on nice days, and they sit in the garage with a cover on them all day long. And I make fun of Corvette owners all the time, and here I am acting like one. But it's one of those trucks where it's like, I've got enough labor and time and parts in it now that there's no way I'd be able to buy another one in this condition for stupid cheap money. There's no stupid cheap hard bodies anymore. It's ridiculous. So, and anything I buy around here is going to be rusted out, and it's awful. So I would be forced to go and look for one in the West Coast, and then I'd be in the transport fees. And all the West Coast ones I've been looking at, even in shitty running condition, are like $3,500. So I'm like, nah, I'll just get made fun of and be anal retentive about the one that I have. I do have the other one that sits outside, sits outside all day long. It doesn't look like much. It's a good work truck. And I'm afraid that the Pathfinder pickup project is going to be another one that sits in the barn. Oh yeah, that does remind me. There's going to be a plexiglass see-through window on the hood. I already marked it all out. I bought a piece of plexiglass last week and laid it out on the hood and made all the marks on it. So when the weather breaks a little bit, I'm going to lock it down to the workbench and start cutting it with the Dremel. And I brought home my big 12-inch sander that's like it sits on the table and you can actually like put stuff up against it and sand it. It's a 12-inch disc. Excuse me. So I'll sand that up so it's all nice and all the lines are nice and even. And then what I'm going to do is I'll paint a 1-inch perimeter around the outside edge of this plexiglass so you won't see how I'm actually going to attach it. And then there's 2 spots in the center of the hood where I can actually drill through the hood and have nice fancy stainless bolts come through. So it'll be, you can look over the hood and see the supercharger right there. It'll be like right out in the open. I'm debating staining, like using the stained glass paint. I have to test it on a piece of plexiglass to make sure it doesn't eat the plexiglass. But I'm tempted to either smoke it out with tint, like the VHT Nightshade stuff, so it's smoked, but you can still see the supercharger through it, and then the big gaping hole on the top of the hood isn't just letting water in. Or getting the stained glass paint in red, staining it red, and putting it on the hood, so from a distance, the whole hood looks like it's all one piece, because it doesn't look like it has a hole in it, because it's all red. And then when you get on top of it, it's see-through red, so you can see inside the engine bay. I think that'd be pretty cool. Because I looked around for hood scoops, and I hate all of them. They're all awful. I mean, unless you get like a totally like done-up hood, which nobody's making done-up hoods. I mean, there's cowl hoods. There were cowl hoods. I don't know if you can still get them now, but there were cowl hoods made for the hard body at one point. But I'm not paying that kind of money for this truck. The whole truck, I bought the Pathfinder for less than $300. So the most expensive piece of this whole project has been the engine. And so the truck combined with the engine, combined with the transmission, and then the body and cab, that whole truck is like less than I built it for less than $4,000 right now. So, because the cab came off of an 86 and a half hard body, 2-wheel drive that I bought for $350 10 years ago. I sold everything off of that truck that could be sold. In fact, I just sold the intake manifold off that truck last week that I've had for 10 years. I mean, so that intake manifold's been following me around for 10 years. I just had a guy need a piece off of one. I said, I'm not going to break the manifold apart. You have to buy the whole manifold. And he paid for that. So the truck is still making me money. So I saved the rear end, which is in the red truck. I saved the cab, which is on the Pathfinder. I saved the transmission, which was sitting in my barn. That's about it. That's all I saved. Everything else was sold. I chopped up and scrapped the frame. Oh yeah, all the front suspension stuff, including the torsion bars, that's all on the red truck. That's all in the Building a Fun Street Truck Using Junkyard Parts series. You'll see all that. All that stuff that I put on that truck is all off of that parts truck that I bought 10 years ago. Everything else I sold. The box I sold. The doors I sold. Tailgate I sold. Engine I scrapped. Hood I scrapped. Fenders I scrapped. But so that was $350 10 years ago. So that's where the cab came from. The transmission came from another Pathfinder, a red Pathfinder that I bought 2 years ago. I bought that Pathfinder for $300. It had a blown motor, so the motor had holes in the block. The guy took it mudding and just blew it apart. So I bought that truck for $300. So there's $600. If you subtract everything that I sold off of that white truck is free now, basically. I saved the frame from that red Pathfinder. I saved the doors. I saved the hood and the fenders. That's all on the Pathfinder pickup now. And I saved the transmission. The transmission was perfect. That's also in the Pathfinder pickup. So if you figure the white truck I've paid off by selling parts, red Pathfinder I bought for $300. Now I'm in the $300 plus the $250 for the white Pathfinder, so that's $550. I think I paid about $1,400 for the engine shipped from California. So that's about $1,900. Let's just round it up to $2,000. And yeah, everything else is from all the other trucks. So I'm not only into it for less than $2,000 or less than $4,000. I'm into it for $2,000. So that goes to show that if you are strategic and you're patient, and my theory is like I let the waves bring stuff to me. I've talked about that in previous videos. If you sit back long enough and you put your energy out into the world, the law of attraction brings you these things. And I really do believe in the law of attraction. It really does work. And the fact that if you're putting out negative vibes, you're not going to get anything back but negative vibes. So if you're putting out positive vibes, you're going to get back, obviously, you're going to get back positive vibes. So, like 10 years ago, when I said I wanted to be an old man out in the country with 2 dogs, 10 years later, I'm an old man out in the country with 2 dogs, 3 dogs. 2 that are mine, or 1 that's a rescue. So, it's funny how the law of attraction works like that. So, when I needed parts to put together this Pathfinder pickup, that red Pathfinder came along, and it was right around the corner from my house. So, all I did was just borrow Justin's trailer and truck and went over and paid the guy and brought it back. Clean title. The truck was absolutely pristine. I took all the parts that I wanted off of it, and scrapped the rest, Got rid of all the non-essential stuff. And that helped. Obviously, years before I started the Pathfinder pickup project, the white 86 truck came along, and that helped build 2 trucks. So that truck actually became 2 different trucks. It became Le Rouge, the red truck. It became the Pathfinder pickup, the other truck. So that's pretty cool. So the legacy of that truck's going to be 2 trucks that have been in magazines. That Pathfinder pickup was mentioned in Four Wheeler magazine, and Le Rouge was in Roadkill magazine. So that's 2 magazine trucks built off of using parts off of 1 scrap truck that I bought over 10 years ago. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, and then just little things that come along here and there. I needed, you just put that, and I'm gonna get all like spiritual and stuff here, and I'm not really a spiritual guy, but it's true. I sit there and I'm like, oh, I really need the answer to this problem, or I really need a part to solve this problem, and lo and behold, exactly what I need appears in the junkyard, which is odd. I'll tell you an exact scenario where that is exactly what happened, because this is a weird find for me. All right, so when I replaced and put the H233B axle into the back of the red truck, when I was building a fun street truck using junkyard parts, the H233B axle that I put in that truck came out of that white 86 parts truck. While I was in there, I wanted to replace the brakes, and I ordered a set of brakes, and then I realized that I couldn't get the 2-wheel drive version of the rear drums. They just didn't exist. Everything was discontinued or back ordered for indefinitely. But I could get the 4-wheel drive drums. And I'm like, well, that's pretty wild. I could get 4-wheel drive drums. So I looked and I saw what I would need to replace the 2-wheel drive brakes with 4-wheel drive brakes. And I realized that not only did I need the shoes and all the other, hardware that went with it, longer pins because the shoes are wider and all that stuff, there's anchors at the top of the drum with pins that the shoes sit on. And the 2-wheel drive has short pins. The 4-wheel drive has long pins. And I put out a request through Facebook and through a few different websites saying if anyone, they did this design only for like a very short time period. It was a very short time period, and then Nissan changed the brake design to go away from that design, which was a carryover from the old 720 brakes. They changed it to what the current brakes were that went through the rest of the time that the hard body was made. So I couldn't get, if I found an 88 hard body, it wasn't going to work because it had the newer brakes on it. So I put out a request. I said it's got to be 86 and a half, 87, really early 88, where they have the anchors with the pins on it, and it's got to be a four-wheel drive. And a bunch of people went out to all the different junkyards, and they looked and they took pictures of the rear drums and the rear brake setup, and I was like, nope, 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 nope. That's not what I need. And I put specific pictures out. The parts discontinued through Nissan. There's nothing on eBay. Most people aren't replacing a anchor anyways. They're not changing from two-wheel to four-wheel drive brakes. So the anchor is just not on eBay as a scrappable part or a resellable part. They would either want the entire backing plate or the entire axle, which I didn't want. I didn't want either. So I was walking around in the junkyard over here in Waterloo, New York, and they had an old 87 four-wheel drive King Cab. There's pictures of it on my Instagram, by the way. It was a two-tone SEV6, and it had that brake setup on it. So in the middle of a snowstorm, I'm laying down. I've got a scissor jack sitting on a parcel deck from the rear, the rear of a car. So like where the speakers are and all that stuff right before the rear window. I took one of those out, put that on the ground, put the scissor jack on it, jacked the truck up far enough to get the wheel off, and then took the anchor brackets out. So this ties into the law of attraction stuff, is that I needed it. I needed it so bad, and it happened that quickly. I had them within a month because I was like just putting out those vibes. I'm like, I really want four-wheel drive brakes on my two-wheel drive hard body that has been swapped to an H233B axle with limited slip. That's what I wanted. The law of attraction heard it. You could hear all the little bells and whistles and all the little, machine sounds that the world was doing. And all of a sudden, I'm walking around in the junkyard, and poof, there it is right there. Truck got crushed shortly after I got him. So that goes to show that timing was everything, because if I had waited, or I didn't know what I was looking for, or I couldn't figure it out, or I hadn't put those vibes out, that truck would have been crushed, and I would have been, red truck would still be sitting on the jack stands with me going, anybody see any of these long pin anchors? And not coming up with anything. There's no hard bodies left in any of the junkyards around here, and especially the early ones, the 86 and a halfs and 87s. There's nothing left around here, and I'd have to wait and go on tour, like go out west, and walk around and hope that I found one, and hope that the guy wasn't just going to sell me the backing plate or sell me the whole rear axle. Oh yeah, you can have them along with the axle. I'll be like, well, I'm traveling. I can't take an axle with me. So that's the law of attraction right there. It was kind of like, I'll use another example of that. So I'm walking around in a junkyard up here in Manchester, and there was a quad cab supercharged Frontier sitting in there. It was in pretty lousy shape. And, I popped the hood. I'm like, oh, I'd love to get the blower off of this thing. I didn't even have the Pathfinder pickup at that time. I think I had it in Pathfinder form, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I'm walking around just looking at parts to collect, stuff I didn't want to see get squashed, because, eventually there's not going to be any of those left either. And people are going to be like, whoa, I need a supercharger, or whatever. So I popped the hood on this Frontier. The supercharger's gone. But the lower pan, the lower mounting pan, is still there. They didn't take the lower pan, they didn't take the lower intake, and they didn't take the injectors. I was like, and they also didn't take the pulleys. So, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. They did take the injectors, but they did not take the lower intake, they did not take the lower pan, and they did not take the pulleys. So I bought all that stuff, not even knowing what I was going to do with it. I just knew that I didn't want to see it get scrapped. So I bought it, and I had it for a long time. And then that's when I, months later, or maybe even years later, I think it was like 1 or 2 years later, I decided that I was going to do the supercharged engine in the Pathfinder pickup. So I bought the, it had the air intake tube as well. That's the other thing that it had that I bought. And good thing I did, because the engine that I bought off of eBay and had shipped here, no injectors, no air intake tube, and no pulleys. So it got here is basically a short block, long block. I would say long block, but not a complete engine. It was not like a running engine or anything like that. I couldn't just drop it in and go. And I noticed that, and they gave me money back because the pictures on eBay showed injectors. They had taken the injectors off and sold them during that time. And I'm like, guys, your pictures show injectors. Where's my injectors? And they're like, oh, we're sorry. And they gave me money back. So luckily I had injectors. I ran into injectors on another truck, and I had them saved for whatever reason. I have no idea why I had them. I just happened to have them. So that the law of attraction is that it worked kind of like a pretense that I ran into these parts prior to even knowing that I was going to end up building a supercharged project. So when the supercharged engine arrived and it was missing parts, I just was able to reach in my grab bag of parts and just be like, whoop, I got this, So they gave me money back because I was like, I told the company, I'm like, oh man, where am I gonna find supercharged injectors? They're so rare, they're impossible to find. And they're like, oh, we'll give me money back. Guys, no, go lay down now. Hey, go lay down. Jet, go lay down. Goofball. You, Mr. Noisy. Go lay down. Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. They actually were pretty good up until here. So Blue is right here. This is, you can't see him, but I'll tip the camera. You can see him. This is Blue. Let me move my pants. That's Blue. He's the rescue. He's the old man. He's the 8-year-old man. He's got a sneer like Billy Idol, and that's because he's got dental issues. He's got a lot of medical issues. He came to me like that. That's what happens when people just neglect their dogs. So unfortunately, he's suffering from that. But they just say they want to be on video. Yeah, they did. That's exactly what they did. They're good. All three of them have been on video at one time or another. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the law of attraction thing. That. I'm not going to go off on any more tangents about that, but that's the whole thing, is that if you sit there and you think about it and you put enough energy into it, the world will hear you at some point. It may not be tomorrow. It might be 10 years. It took me 10 years of parts procurement to get to the point where I am now, that I could build that truck. That truck is all built off of stuff that I've accumulated for 10 years, over the course of 10 years. So it's been pretty wild. Like things that I didn't think that I would ever need, I'm just like going through my drawers and stuff, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I have that connector? What made me think that I needed to save that connector? Well, I'm not gonna even question it. I've got that connector. I can do this job now. So it's pretty wild stuff. I replaced the rear wiper on the Xterra. I can tell you that was not a bad process. The whole time that I've had this truck, I never had a rear wiper that worked. And so I popped the rear panel off on a nice day I think it was last weekend, as a matter of fact. Popped the rear panel off, put the new wiper in, and Rain-X the window. It's happening. That's about all that I got right there. I'm looking forward to what I might find on Monday. This yard out in Rome, it's called Vince's. I've been there a couple times. Usually I only get there once a year, because to get to Vince's, it's like, a long drive, and you don't just go out there. You got to kind of plan for it. So we're gonna leave early, and the last couple times that I've been out there, it's been kind of fruitful for me. For some reason, they seem to get a lot of the hard body trucks out there and some of the more interesting frontier stuff. So I'm gonna pack some tools, and see what I can get. And then I don't remember the name of the other yard that we're going to. It's like Rupert's, Rogers, whatever. It's another U-Pull-It. So I'm excited because I've never been to that yard, so I have no idea what I'm gonna find. So that's pretty cool. We went down to Gary's in Binghamton 2 weeks ago, and I found a 720 down there. It was pretty whooped. Got used as a field truck, and definitely not it didn't really have anything that I wanted. I was kind of disappointed because I was kind of hoping that it would have the ST steering wheel again so I could buy it cheap and then sell it. Yeah. Yeah, you do. You need to get your truck fixed. You know, I've seen. I'm surprised. For the longest time, I didn't see any hard bodies anywhere around here. I was the only one, and now there's actually two right around the corner from me. If you go up, like if you leave my house and you're going up towards the city, like you're going to Taco Bell, it's camouflage and it's on the right hand side. It doesn't look like it's in very good shape. I mean, the body looks okay, but I bet you it's pretty whooped as a field truck. But it's sitting there. If you go the other way from my house and you start heading up towards Geneva and all this stuff, if you look on your left, there is a King Cab. It's gray. It's got black wheels. It's got tinted windows. It actually looks pretty badass, but it needs some love. But it's lowered too, and it's sitting right there off the side of the road. Neither of them have plates on them, and I don't know what the stories are with them, but it's kind of nice to see them. And then I think it was 2 weeks ago. It may have been a week ago when I was driving. I was driving in the company truck, and I was coming down a hill, going into Naples, and I was directly behind a red hard body. So it was kind of neat to watch it go and be driving behind it and being like, "Man," from I hadn't seen them in so long, even though I own them. You don't really know the perspective of how small they really are until you're looking at them from a different vehicle. So I'm like following them in this Silverado. That's my company truck is a long bed 1500 Silverado, 4-wheel drive. So I'm a big truck going down the road, compared to a hard body. And I'm just driving down this hill and I'm just watching this thing and I'm like, that's too cool. They're so small. That was just too cool for me. And then there actually was one up in Marion at a body shop. It had been hit in the front, and I thought that it looked like it was a deer hit or something. And I thought that they were gonna like total it because that's how bad the damage was to it. I mean, the hood was all, the whole front end was just gone. They fixed it. Somebody fixed it. They put a core support on it, the whole 9 yards. And I saw it. It was like it got painted and everything. So somebody owns a black hard body in Marion, somewhere in Marion, New York, that likes it enough that they put the money into fixing it. I thought that was pretty sweet. And then the only other one that I seen is one that I inquired about on Marketplace. It's got a 240SX intake swap that they didn't finish because they ran into problems with it. And it's one of those. It's a 4-wheel drive, regular cab, 5-speed. All the bodywork looks good. It's just multiple colors because they took the best panels and put them on it. But they have it on Marketplace right now, or they did, and the owner is not replying to anybody. I don't know, because I even sent an email saying, "Yo, if you still have this after tax season, I could be interested in rehoming it and have a regular cab here, 4-wheel drive regular cab in the fleet, and I would just have to figure out the 240SX intake or change it back to a regular hard body intake because I don't know what they were doing. I think that they had good intentions because it is a good swap, but it also is kind of a pain, and getting it to fit right and getting all the wires and everything to fit right are kind of interesting. So as I said, I don't know the whole details about why they didn't finish it. I know it's in a non-running state, so unfortunately the owner hasn't contacted anybody back. It's like, the last person that contacted him, if you look, you can see when other people have contacted him and stuff, and there was no reply, and it was like 3-4 months ago or whatnot. So that one's not happening. There's another truck that I actually did reach out to the owner to get. I talked to the owner last year, and he made me a really good deal on the truck, but it never went through. And actually, I did agree that I was going to buy it, but it didn't. I was like in a financial position where I was like, I don't know. I mean, I wanted something that would run that I could drive, and it didn't look like it was more of a project than I was hoping for. But at this point, I feel like I'm obligated to rescue it. I don't want to jinx myself by giving any more information than that, but I do feel obligated to rescue this truck. It's been sitting in the same spot for 10 years. I've been underneath it. I went by it even 2 weeks ago, and I went underneath it and looked at it, and it's not crusty to the point where I'd pass it up. But even worst case scenario, I would still want it, even if I parted it out, because there's good parts on it that I could sell and make my money back on the truck, and then just scrap whatever's bad. So I'm waiting to hear back from this guy. This guy contacted me last year. I put another note in the truck and said, "Hey, still interested? Give me a call. Let me know." And so I'm waiting to hear back from him, and we'll see what he has to say. And if he says, "Yeah, it's still for sale. If you want it," I'll be like, "Yeah, just meet me, sign the title over to it, and Justin and I will come over and pull it up onto the trailer and bring it over here and unload it." If I do get it, I've already named it, but I'm not gonna give away the name yet until it's actually in my possession. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Yeah, that is really all I have got. So I think what I'm gonna do is, it's 8 o'clock. I think I'm gonna crash. I think I'm gonna throw on a movie. I think I'm gonna get underneath the blanket. I think I'm gonna let the dogs party for a little while. And I really appreciate everybody that tuned in. And Dylan, I appreciate you staying here this whole time. It's pretty cool. So as soon as I get some more interesting stuff to talk about, I'll probably throw together another actually focused video. I just got to get back over to Justin. So once I get that, I can shoot some more video about this truck. And I really want this thing to run. That's my goal. I want it to run and pull out of the. I want it to be able to fire up and idle, even if it idles terribly. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Even if it idles terribly, I want it to idle before May. We'll get this done, and then I'll work on getting it to move under its own power. So stay tuned. I'll post some more videos as stuff comes up, and if you guys got any questions, just hit me up, Nissan Rallycross Truck at gmail.com. And also be sure to check out my Instagram, which is Rainmaker_D21. And if you're on Instagram and you're interested in any of the decals that I'm making, check out hashtag Water Street Decals. Get in touch with me. I can make all kinds of stuff. And as I said, I'm way more specialized towards the Nissan stuff, but I've also done farm equipment, and large trucks. So just hit me up and I'll make you a little something. And till the next time, guys, stay warm, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.